Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Wander to the Edge. My name is Adam Asher from the Edge of Adventure.
My name is Zanne. I'm from Where Gals Wander.
Yes, Zanne. Yes, you are. That is your name, and it's good to be back with great friends as we introduce the audience to great friends, amazing and inspiring travelers, and it's really our privilege and our pleasure to get that opportunity every week. And I know today is a very special day. This is a good friend of yours, Zanne, and I've enjoyed already offline getting to know these two people that we'll be introducing momentarily. Great people, lots of fun. Got a great show for you today.
Yeah, some of my old Chicago friends coming to visit us today. Hey, Adam, what's going on with your hair? It's usually like curlier. Why is it so straight?
Is it straight?
It doesn't. Well, it's not as curly as it usually is.
Just in long hair problems.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been raining here today, so I would think that would have had the opposite effect, but I don't really know.
Okay.
Maybe it just needs more product.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe next time you can show us what like your hair routine is. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd like to see that.
Yes. I would.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, enough chit chat. I don't want to bore you to death, but it is great to have everybody here, and we got a great guest today.
Yep.
And let's run the intro and bring him into the show. Get to know him. How's that sound?
Okay, so I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah.
All right.
What's the name of the show, though?
Wander to the Edge.
Speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome, everybody. This is Wander to the Edge, and it's great to have Paul and Gigi with us. Zanne, it's not going to be right if I introduce these two. First of all, they're awesome, but secondly, I'm going to let you introduce them because you guys have known each other for so long. And tell us who do we have here.
I've known Paul back when I used to be a brunette. That's how long I've known Paul.
Moons ago.
Yeah. And Gigi and I, we have been friends socially, but we haven't had a chance to really interact. I guess this is the closest thing to in real life.
You're too far away.
I know. Well, you're always coming out to Chicago. Like I always see you guys posting, like going to California. Do we get a call? Do we hear from you?
We don't want near you. That's the thing.
I did hang out with you guys out there.
You did hang out with us
not that long ago.
Did you go there?
We went down to LA. We had some beers.
Yep.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think I was on a Kia trip when I was driving a stick.
Yes. And that's what you do. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about because you guys, you kind of have it made. Like you fly all over the world and you try out cool stuff and you play with toys and you drive cool cars. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what you do, right?
Yeah, other than the part where I have to like sell advertising and pay bills and more.
We're going to talk about that too.
But
so Paul Strauss,
we do.
Yeah.
We do get to do all that stuff.
You do.
And then we have to write about it and shoot video about it and do photographs about it. But that's it's a fun place to be.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about all that. But Paul Strauss, Gigi Leonard, I want you first to tell us a little bit about how you got to be the head of the empire that you have with the Awesomer and Technobob and 95 Octane and whatever other projects that you have. Because it's when I mention like some of these blogs, like even at work, and I just kind of throw out, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I totally know that site, or my husband reads that every single day. Like you are basically a household name at this point. So we're going to hear about how that came to be. But first, you've got an interesting background, Paul, in terms of what you used to do before you got to this point.
Yeah, my career prior to this universe of doing things online. I started out in the theater of all places. Gigi and I actually met at Tulane, where I got my theater degree, and I used to design sets and lighting. And one of my first jobs out of college was actually working for Disney, which might be familiar to you. And I worked in Orlando. I worked in the theme parks, was an assistant lighting designer, helped to open the now defunct Pleasure Island, not Treasure Island. And somehow that led me into all kinds of different design pursuits. So, over the years, found my way into doing graphic design work, which made a little bit better money than theatrical work. And that led me into multimedia design, which led me into the internet space. And I worked for a number of different companies in that world. But along the way, I also worked for Playboy. So somehow I actually know two people who've worked for both Playboy and Disney, which is, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. It's a two-person thing.
Well, you got to start somewhere, I guess.
Exactly. So along that route, on my way to Playboy, and as I was leaving Digital Work, which is the company where Zanne and I met, I started my first blog, which is Technobob. And I sort of said to myself, it was totally a hobby at that point. It was, I loved gadgets and technology, and I saw sites like Engadget and Gizmodo, and I said, well, that's kind of cool. I could probably, all they do is they just pick interesting stuff to write about and write about it. And so I said, why can't I do that? I might not make any money at it, but it'll be a fun side gig. And in that first year that I started writing Technobob, I had a couple of shockingly viral things happen and got great coverage on Dig and got picked up on StumbleUpon a lot. And that drove a lot of traffic and interest. And that was where I said, well, wait, maybe this can actually be a real job, which my mother still doesn't think that I do. She's like, so when are you going to get a job that pays bills? So, but I digress. So Technobob was the first site, launched in 2006. And that, my plan was, when I get to the point that I can make as much money doing this as I do, with a full-time gig, I'm going to quit for a full year. I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to go do this and pursue it full-time. Along the way, we launched the Awesomer. Along the way, we launched 95 Octane. Along the way, we launched other experiments that didn't do as well. But it's been a fun and wild ride. Sort of starting out with the technology space, but then gradually moving into lifestyle and entertainment and automotive. And it's just kind of a blast to be able to cover and talk about all these things that we actually enjoy and making a living at it.
Okay, Paul, so now to put this into perspective for people who are following along at home, okay? Technobob, in a nutshell, that platform is what? It's
gadgets, games, geek culture, with kind of an offbeat spin to it. So, 15 years ago, when the space wasn't as crowded as it is, we do a lot of reporting on things like, oh, here's the new iPhone. And then all that got kind of boring, if you will. Devices just sort of incrementally have evolved, and we didn't want to be just a review site. So it's gotten to be more geek culture and unusual stuff surrounding the people who are into technology and the world that geeks are into. So there's a lot of interesting art projects that we find on Etsy. There's a lot of unusual projects from Japan and other places. Our dogs are in the background having, I don't know.
Looks like they're having a rough evening.
So there's some whining going on that we're not paying attention. But so that's what Technobob is in a nutshell. So it's unusual stuff that appeals to a geeky culture.
Okay, and then 95 Octane is what?
95 Octane is cars that don't suck. So it's what I found, and part of the reason that we launched that site was there are car sites for like hardcore enthusiasts, There are car sites for people who are just, shopping and purchasing vehicles. But there really wasn't a car site that I saw that was sort of aiming for a little more for the middle of the fairway of just good vehicles, whether you're shopping or interested in, the highest end, most exotic sports car, or you just want, Chevy. You're going to have a lot of different options. And so the site's all about vehicles that are just good, good, great, or excellent. And it gave us a really good expansion to what we were doing in the Awesomer, which was a piece of the Awesomer covers cars, but since it's more of an aspirational lifestyle site, everything on that site is, when it comes to cars, it's adventure, luxury, or sport. And that kind of left out a huge category of, maybe there's just a good truck out there. Maybe there's a good family SUV. And that's a world that's very, very popular and where a lot of the automotive buying is. So that's what 95 Octane's all about.
So did you start that site just as an excuse to go out and drive really cool cars?
Yeah, kind of. So the reality was that our coverage on the Awesomer is pretty lightweight when it comes to cars. It's, a pretty gallery, couple of photos, maybe a little sexy video of the car, but there was not a lot of depth to it. I've always said the Awesomer is 1,000 miles wide and an inch deep. And so we started getting some opportunities to drive interesting vehicles or borrow cars, but then it became fairly apparent that the car manufacturers would be happier if we said more about the cars. And so certainly 95 Octane gave us that opportunity to have a larger platform for it and kind of go deeper. And nowadays, if a vehicle crosses over, we'll cover it on both sites, which, obviously the car manufacturers who let us borrow vehicles or let us go to these events get that double coverage, and they really like that.
So this is a travel show, of course, and one of the things that your creativity and your entrepreneurial spirit has afforded you is the opportunity to travel. And, we're going to, as Zanne said, we'll get into this a little bit at a time because you guys do so many different things and they are awesomer for sure. And as you travel around the nation, has that been a pretty cool aspect of this life that you've built and created for yourself, the opportunity to get to see the country out there, or is that old hat for you?
So, every time we get to go somewhere, it's exciting. It's an opportunity to spend time with a community of other people who have similar interests, because despite the fact that you see some of the same people on these trips, that's actually part of the fun of it, is, reconnecting with friends, reconnecting with people in the industry. But, a big part of what these primarily automotive manufacturers, or most of the trips that we get to take,
Not me.
well, you get to take some. You did the BMW thing, you did some
I thought you
Toyota
meant
things.
you're right. Never mind.
Yes. So they want to take us to interesting places, both to experience the vehicle in a really impactful setting. So, cool roads, twisty, turny roads, racetracks, that sort of thing, but also to sort of, experience the lifestyle that goes with that vehicle. So, our travels have taken us to, I've certainly been in California a number of times. Every year I end up in California for a lot of events, and there are fantastic driving roads and mountains and ocean vistas. And so I understand why Zanne and Greg moved to California from Chicago, because here I get a lot of vehicles to drive, and the Midwest is kind of flat and not
boring.
So it's a little more challenging to find interesting roads here. But yeah, our travels have taken us to places, from Alaska to the Arctic Circle. And it's really an adventure to get out there and see unique places. It creates amazing, photographic opportunities, but just a lot of once in a lifetime things happen as a result of this, just aspirational bucket list kind of activities that I never thought I would do. And Gigi hasn't gotten to go on quite as many trips as I do, but
I will say the ones that I have gone on were pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I also want to say that I don't think I know anybody except for Paul who literally has gone around the world, around the globe with his job. These companies are very generous with us. So it's been quite an astounding time in our careers, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the perks of being in that business are tremendous. And, you get opportunities to go drive a race car or sit in the passenger seat with a professional driver who drives 170 miles an hour like it's nothing. And that's his 7/10 on the scale, and usually drives 200 miles an hour. So it's really been amazing to go to all these places. There's been so many memorable locations. Sometimes I forget all the places I've been, but I realized that I've now checked off 48 out of 50 states in the US, in large part thanks to this career. And, several other international destinations from, Japan to Canada to Mexico. Sweden, yep.
You went to
Germany,
Mexico?
France.
You did?
I did. I went to Mexico and drove.
Oh.
I drove about 40%, 400 miles of the Baja 1000 course.
Yeah.
So that was quite spectacular.
So I have a couple questions actually for Gigi. But first, I just want to say, you know how many people are watching this right now saying, oh my God, I want to do what you do. So we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
But first, I have to ask Gigi. So Paul comes home one day. He says, okay, I'm quitting my job. I'm doing this website thing full time. What's your response?
This. Are you sure that that's the right thing to do? Are we going to make it? Or, do I need to go to the Clinique counter and bust out a part-time whatever? Anyway, it actually it all worked out well. He's what the thing is about this business is that you can start out on a hobby, right? You can start out on a passion of yours, which was exactly what he did. And he liked gadgets. He's like he geeks out at stuff like this and silly little toys. Like when we were in Tokyo, he had to go to the toy store, and when we did go to the toy store, he geeked out. I mean, it was just, he loves it. So that enthusiasm will build your audience, right? And then, I don't know, it just turned into something more, and he has the business acumen to manage it. So, and I think that is the X factor in a situation like this, where if you want to be successful, you really need to know how to manage a business,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
I'll also chime in and just say it has so much to do with persistence and consistency as well. I know a lot of people who dabble, and it's really tough to dabble and be successful in this business.
Yeah, I think, Gigi used the term X factor. That, as I was thinking, what is the X factor? Okay, so you've got the business experience and you've got a lot of technical know-how, which comes in handy when you're trying to run an internet-based business. I mean, all that's helpful, I'm sure. You've got to be able to take pictures. You've got to be able to, probably, handle video, and you've got to be able to write, and you got to be able to sell, right? You have to be able to sell your concept and your idea to companies that want to partner with you, or you want to be, present them an opportunity to partner with you. So if you had to point and say, this is the thing that makes it all come together, you've said persistence. Does anything else come to mind?
I think passion, for sure. Being passionate about a particular topic and a particular subject area is key. And so I would say that, and I would also say organization and structure is surprisingly important to being successful in this business. You have to be able to work in a lot of different environments. I go to these events and for all that people see on social media about the fun, at 10 o'clock at night when everybody else goes out to party, I go back to the room to edit video. I go back and edit more posts. I publish more content. I schedule for the next day. And it's different being an entrepreneur and running your own shop versus a lot of the folks that I meet who might just be in a writing position or an editorial position for a larger publication where, it's 9 to 5 and then, 10 o'clock at night, they can go out to the party at these events. So you have to be dedicated to it and you have to really, every day be willing to sort of, there's repetition, there's doing a lot of the same stuff and being consistent about it. So.
Have you ever thought to yourself, if I had known it was going to be this difficult, I might not have started? Have you ever come to that point where you think,
no, not at all. I wouldn't blink at that. I am kind of a rebellious person. I don't work well with other people.
I like you're saying that to your former HR person. I'm just kidding.
Unemployable.
I have managed to snow much of the universe into thinking that I work well enough.
No job.
But generally speaking, I've found that when I've worked in corporate settings, big, small, medium, that there are aspects of that just rub me the wrong way. And so I much prefer to work for myself, even if it means, times where you're scraping by and times where it's hard work. At the end of the day, it all sort of lands on my shoulders, which is good and it's bad. The good that comes from it is that every decision that I make is mine and I get to own it. And there's not politics and other people's agendas and things that I just, don't agree with. If I need to make a decision on something, I can make that decision in a minute if I want to, and I don't have to run it through a committee and, sit in meetings all day and all that fun stuff. So I much prefer this independent lifestyle, even if it has, it has its challenges. You don't get health insurance. And you have to go figure that out. But for the most part, it's a great lifestyle.
If I was thinking about doing what you've done already, and I came to you for advice, I want you to give me advice, but in two different ways.
Okay.
The first one is I want you to try and sell me. I want you to try and convince me that this is what I should do. And then I want you to try and talk me out of pursuing this as a career.
All right. So I think this feels like an interview question for a job.
It's a nice pen. It's a nice pen. You really want to use this.
Also, I also want to know, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
And if you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
An oak, a sturdy oak. So to answer your question, so the dogs that's Sophie, the Bernese Mountain Dog, who's speaking up at the moment. She has the answers. So
barking up the wrong tree.
The wrong one.
I'm just going to tell dad jokes through this whole time. It's fine.
Oh, he's got a good one too.
Oh boy! So it's actually an appropriate dad joke because I was just grilling some corn tonight. So I'm going to tell you my pirate joke, which is, how much does a pirate pay for corn?
How much?
A buccaneer.
Huh? See?
So
sounds like it.
Never mind.
So to answer the question that we started with here, here's my pitch. So my pitch is,
go ahead.
But my pitch is that it's a fantastic opportunity to pursue your dreams and to pursue a passion and to do something that's entirely your own. And that's something not everybody gets to do. And a lot of people make these decisions later in their life to, you know, quit their job and explore and do something new and do something different, which is great. But if you're thinking that at any point in your life, you're thinking that when you're 25, you're thinking it when you're 35, you're thinking it when you're 52, like I am, you want to try and seize that opportunity. And even if it just, you start the spark, right? Just start it up, you know, put a little bit of time, put a little bit of effort into it. And it's amazing what can come out of that. So to me, that's the beauty of doing this yourself. You know, on the flip side, you know, what are the things that are challenges and you know, warnings about doing any sort of digital business these days? It's a challenging business now. It's a little harder to get audience. Everybody wants to make money. So the Facebooks and the Googles of the world and those guys, they want to control the audience and they want to control that traffic and they want money for it. So when I started in 2006, it wasn't quite as hard to reach social media audiences. You didn't have to, you know, to pay to play on Facebook to reach your own audience. So it's definitely, the business side of it enters into play more now than it might have 15, 20 years ago when people were just sort of figuring all this stuff out. And you do have to be prepared to have, you know, ups and downs and have to change things on a frequent basis. So if you're dependent on consistency, you know, and you need to have the same dollar amount coming in every paycheck, and you need to have the, you know, benefits provided for you, and you need that stability, then I would say build it up the way I did, which is work at it, you know, make it a part-time thing, but do it consistently and see where you can take it. See where you can take it 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week, 20 hours a week, before you know, chuck everything and go do this full time. Because there are things, I mean, there are people out there that I know who depended on only one channel for traffic. So YouTube or Facebook. And then, you know, those big companies make an algorithm change and all of a sudden they go from huge revenue to nothing. And the opposite can happen. So you have to, you know, diversify, and you have to have different sources of traffic and revenue. And, you know, so it's not an easy business to be in, but it's a fun business, and it has a lot of potential and upside.
Paul, how long have you been doing this? What are we talking, 10 years, 15 years?
So I started Technobob in 2006. So we're at 14 years now for my first publication. But I've been working in the internet space in some capacity since 1994. You know, first doing design and then moving into the back end and technology space. So, you know, all of what started as sort of, you know, a media and enablement device, you know, I became a content creator within that realm, which is pretty different for me because up until 2006, content wasn't my game. My game was building the infrastructure and building the technology and design and some of the business experience. You know, Gigi and I had a couple of retail businesses around that time. So I got a lot of business experience from doing that and the entrepreneurial world. But yeah, I've been pounding away writing content since before let's see, it wasn't before Facebook, but it certainly was before Instagram.
Before
it was before content was cool. That sounds like, yeah. Okay, so where I was going with that too is trying to get an idea approximately how many posts, right, during this time, how many posts or articles have you written?
So my last count, rough count, was somewhere north of 100,000. So between all of the different websites, you know, between Technobob and the Awesomer and 95 Octane and Mighty Mega, which is kind of no longer with us, all those sites, it's just somewhere north of 100,000. You know, every day on the Awesomer, Gigi and I post 18 articles a day on that site. plus a couple of other, sort of freebies on there that are, for our store that we have on the site. So that plus Technobob plus 95 octane, it all adds up. And, from time to time these days we're writing almost everything ourselves. But there have been times where we've had a couple of freelance writers who are helping us out, and that sort of ebbs and flows based on advertising spend and traffic and all that good stuff.
So what is it like working together?
It's fantastic. Actually, this is the third job that we worked together on. So the websites were, Gigi and I had worked at a publishing company back in the early 90s, and I was doing graphic design and desktop publishing, if you remember that. And Gigi was working in production and orchestrating production operations and all that good stuff. And then we owned our retail stores together. And so I was heavily involved in that. Gigi was the queen of the businesses. And so we did that, and then we did these. So I feel like we complement each other, and we're careful not to spend 24 hours a day together, because that would be bad. So we try and have our own pursuits as well.
All right. So you do a lot of writing and a lot of posting, all that goes into the content creation, which nowadays includes, video and graphic design. Oh my gosh, all this stuff. When you're not doing that, what do you do? Like, what do you do for fun?
So what do I do for fun? I like to actually take just nice Sunday drives in my convertible and kind of get out on the open road and get away. So that's one thing. I am a big video game nut, so I've built out a home arcade in our basement. So I've got, a custom arcade machine and an old Terminator 2 pinball machine. So I spent some time down there. Gigi and I like to have our own little travel getaways sometimes. So we have that as well. I don't know. What do you like to do?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. Golf.
Oh yeah. I like golf and I like gardening.
And your horses too. I see you a lot with the horses.
Well, I like horses too, because chicks like horses. In case you didn't know, and photography. So yeah, no, we have our own separate interests, and then we come together for the things that we like to do together. We're one of those rare duos, I guess, that can actually work together seamlessly and live together seamlessly, and we don't bicker and argue because we're strangely always on similar pages. Somebody might be faster than the other one, or somebody might be slower than the other one. It's my process. But, at the end of the day, we really do. It's a rare thing. It really is. I've been told that many, many times.
Yeah, I really cherish, there are times where we go and do something like, we go out to a restaurant. Well, these days we don't go out to a lot of restaurants, but we go out to a restaurant that we typically go to on a regular basis, and we just use it as a brainstorming session for some new idea, or we get in the car and we go out for lunch. And those times are great because we just have time alone, away from the computer, away from social media, and we just toss ideas around. And some of them are around the websites, and some of them are around other pursuits, and some of them are around, moving to Vermont, so lots of different things that we chat about in those settings.
What are a couple of your favorite places that you visited? It could be for work, doesn't have to be for work, doesn't have to be for the blog, but just a couple of locations that really made an impact.
I would love to hear the answer to this question, because I don't think we have the same answer.
So, I have a few. Probably the first one that comes to mind doesn't have anything to do with work, but it was when Gigi and I were younger, and we took a 6-week road trip across America, and we got in a little Mazda Miata, and somehow we lived for 6 weeks out of Mazda Miata, and drove from Chicago west and north into the mountains, through South Dakota, and really just all the way across down the West Coast. Made it up to Vancouver on the way, and came down the coast and through the desert Southwest, and Colorado and Nebraska and all that good stuff. And that was a fantastic trip and really memorable. I still remember the music we played on the trip. It was certainly before the time of MP3s. And so we had, our little case with 16 CDs in it, and we played a lot of B-52s on that trip. So I have some great memories from that trip. So that would probably be my number one. But then, work-wise, there are a couple of really memorable trips. One was I took a trip with Jaguar Land Rover to the very, very, very top of Sweden, to the ice fields, and drove both sports cars like Jaguar F-Types with 575 horsepower, and also Land Rover, Range Rover SUVs, and basically got to play around on the ice for 3 days. And see the beautiful sunsets up there, experience the chill, eat some moose, eat some reindeer. I far prefer reindeer to moose, by the way. So in case you're going to fix dinner. So that was an extremely memorable trip. And it was kind of interesting because I've been on so many of these trips that are really structured, and this wasn't a media trip. It was a trip that JLR does for customers who pay money to go on it. And so it was really interesting because a lot of it was, here's a car, here's some ice, go have fun. So that was a blast, and it was really memorable, and the location was amazing. And as a bonus, so many car companies test their new cars in the extreme conditions in Arjeplog, Sweden. So I got to see spy on all kinds of things that weren't available yet. Lots of things in camouflage, lots of mystery vehicles. Saw the most recent Porsche 911 2 years before it was released. So it was a really cool opportunity and experience. So I would give that one, sort of first place on the work trips.
What about you, Gigi?
The last and the greatest work trip, well, it wasn't the last one. I shouldn't say that. I went to go to the US Open last year as a guest of Lexus. And I spent 5 nights in Pebble Beach playing at the best golf courses, not Pebble Beach, because that's where the US Open was. And just being exposed to so many different experiences there, traveling in the LC500, which is this very expensive convertible car on Highway 1. The sun's going down. I mean, that was probably the best work trip that I ever took.
Well, also you got to drive the RCF Track Edition at Laguna Seca, which is like one of my bucket list tracks that I've not been to yet. So I'm a little jealous of that one.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a really good one.
So.
But we've also been, Paul and I are pretty good at going to islands. So we've been to the BVIs, we've been to Fiji, and I actually loved our trip to Bermuda.
Yeah. Bermuda was amazing.
We had a lot of fun in Bermuda. And you got to go at the right time of the year, though. Otherwise, it's too cold.
And Tokyo. Tokyo is one of our favorite spots. So
yeah,
I've been fortunate enough. So Gigi and I got to spend a few nights in Tokyo on our way to visit her mother in Manila in the Philippines, which was quite exotic. But I've been fortunate enough to go back to Tokyo 2 more times on work trips for the Tokyo Motor Show, and also to learn how to build speakers with Pioneer. And I'm just enamored of the place. It's just not just Tokyo proper, but just Japan in general. I could see myself there if I spoke the language, which is a little challenging.
So that reminds me, we had Mike Satterfield on as well. And I know you know Mike.
Yes.
And he talked about his trips to Japan and such too, and his love for that country. But it reminded me of a question I asked him that I'm also going to ask you. As you're driving these big, really expensive cars, Have you ever maybe left a little scratch or mark on any of these vehicles as you're taking them out?
So never intentionally. But I had an incident a few years ago here in Chicago, of all places. I had a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, 707 horsepower muscle car. And I am coming down the Edens Expressway, which is, one of the main thoroughfares from the North Shore down to Chicago. And I'm in the left-hand lane driving this car. It's got a really low spoiler on the front. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a shredded truck tire comes up underneath the front of the car. And I hear this horrible thump. And of course, I pull it over to the side of the road and find like a whole bunch of the bottom part of the front of the car has been crunched. So that was a little nerve-wracking.
I also think we had a little problem with the Polaris that they sent us.
Oh, yeah, that was just minor.
Do you remember that one time that we had that thing?
Yeah, sometimes one of the things with these sports cars, and especially the more exotic things, is despite the fact that they should have 23 cameras around them so you don't scratch them on a curb, they don't. And so I had a Polaris Slingshot, which is that weird little three-wheel guy without a roof. And we went out to have lunch at Superdog, which is one of our favorite spots to get hot dogs and all that good stuff. And I pull into the space and just 1 inch too far over the curb and scratch the little front thing on it. So the good thing is that if you're not doing anything intentional, if you're not, going out of your way to push a car beyond its limits, those car companies are pretty forgiving. And you got to be honest and tell them what happened and communicate it. But yeah, on the flip side, I have been on events, and I won't name names of people, but I've been on events where there are certain persona non grata these days who take a vehicle and think it's their toy to push as hard as they can. And that's not what we're there to do. We're there to, experience those vehicles and within reason, right? We're not professional track drivers. They're not our cars. There are other journalists and other content creators who want to drive them. And so you want to treat all that with respect, or else, and that's an important part of this whole business is, treat those vendors and treat the companies that you partner with respect. And they will treat you with respect as well.
Do they charge you extra if you take the vehicle back and you don't have a full tank of gas?
They don't. Actually, they provide gasoline. Although obviously if I'm going to take a 1,000-mile road trip in one, we'll pay for all the gas on the road trip. But yeah, they're the fleet management companies who bring the cars to you expect that they're going to fill up the tank. So
sounds like an amazing gig. And again, you built this. You built this, and you're being very humble about it, and I get that. I mean, that's awesome. But I know you've put in a lot of work. The two of you have put in tons of work for years, and to get to this point. So I just want to congratulate you. I know that this didn't just happen. This isn't just luck. You've worked really hard at it, and there's so many different things about this that are intriguing. But there was that point in time where you made the decision. You identified what you wanted to go after, and you counted the cost, and you went after it. And anyway, I think it's part of the story, but that is one of the elements of the story that is so inspiring. So let's also scariest, most concerning moment, travel, place you've been.
Okay. I will answer for him.
You're going to answer for me? Okay. Go ahead.
Because I do it all the time.
Go ahead.
It was the time when you were in California and you tried the jetpack and you were trying to go up off the ocean surface, and then you couldn't do it, and then it was really hard to it was when you landed on the nude beach when you were parasailing in tandem in La Jolla.
So that wasn't scary. That was fun and weird. So to the first point.
I mean, no time for
now I forgot what the first one was that you said.
The first one was when you wore the
jetpack. So we went to it was a trip with Toyota, and we were doing a whole bunch of miscellaneous lifestyle activities throughout Southern California, and it was a road trip. And they took us to one of those places where you can wear a jetpack in the water and hover above the water. It looks fantastically fun.
But it's not a good story if you don't think it's your scariest moment.
It's certainly one of my scariest moments, if not the scariest.
See,
moment.
I can name these things
So,
because, I'm a wife, and I know like when I'm terrified, and there were a few incidents.
So I strap on the jetpack, and they've shown us this video that shows how easy it's supposed to be, and they show people like zooming in and out of the water like dolphins and all this crazy stuff. So I strap this thing on, and I get out over the water, and I'm floating for, over the water for 6 or 7 minutes at, 30 or 40 feet up above the water, which was really cool. And I was like, this is amazing. And then one of my arms got a little tired. And what they don't tell you is that you have to be perfectly balanced. And so my right arm started getting tired. I think it was my right arm. Started getting tired. And all of a sudden, I just flipped. I went from being straight to doing this and flipping upside down and just right into the water. And when you've got this, 100-pound pack on your back, and you go into the water and you're upside down and you've lost you don't know where up and down is. That was pretty scary stuff. And I managed to correct myself, and, they turned off the jet and sort of shut me down. But I realized at that point that I was too tired to get back up on it. And I couldn't swim back to shore. And the way that those whole jetpack things work is that you're providing the thrust for the jet ski that you're attached to. So my choices were either get back up in the air and try and fly this thing back to shore, or what I ended up doing was having to lie on my back and hold on to this thing and pull myself to shore with this. But that was a little sketchy out of all the things.
And so I'm see if I can follow the story here. So then when you got to shore, you were on a nude beach.
No, that's a different story.
Oh my God, that would be awesome if that's what it is.
So the other story was
that would have been so cool.
I was in where was it? By Pebble Beach.
You were in La Jolla. That's not Pebble Beach.
No, I was by.
What are you referring to?
Is this
skydiving?
No,
parasailing.
Paragliding. Not parasailing. Paragliding.
La Jolla Coast.
So we did this tandem paragliding off of a cliff, and I've never done paragliding before, and it's odd enough because I'm basically sitting in the lap of some guy who is the professional instructor. And you're attached to them, and you've got the chute on, you've got the whole pack on, and we kept getting delayed because they said we didn't have enough wind for the day, so we got delayed a couple times, and we finally got a good amount of wind, and we run off this cliff, which is about 180 feet up off the beach below, and we get a good gust of wind, and we're up there for about 10 minutes enjoying the wind, and it's a beautiful view, and it's quiet, and I'm getting all this video and taking pictures. And at some point, the winds shift. And despite the fact that everybody else in our group landed back up on the cliff, we lost the wind. And we couldn't get back onto the cliff where we started. So we started descending. And my instructor was like, we're going to go down to the beach. And it's an hour hike back up. So I was like, fine. So we get down, we land on the beach. And sure enough, it's a nude beach. I've got my GoPro on, and it's right there, facing out, POV shot. Do you know that the only naked people anywhere near us were 70-year-old men? So it was kind of a anticlimactic nude beach story. But yes, that was less scary and more just weird.
So what did you do with the video?
I think I washed my camera after that. I soaked it. I did not keep that footage. It wasn't something I had.
I don't know how to top that story.
You probably can't.
No.
Adventure in a blogger.
Yes, it's like I said, you get to experience things you never would have experienced before.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And what guests we have today, Paul Strauss and Gigi Leonard, and getting to know them, learning not just about the fun and unusual adventures that they've had, but also and their passion for travel and those kind of things, but also just how determined they are when you think about what it takes to be successful in the business that they chose for themselves and that they've worked so hard at now for in several different platforms, different brands, but they figured it out. They work hard, and
they're great people.
And they're great people. They like
I know,
to laugh.
I know.
For the nice compliments.
We like you too.
Yeah. I miss you guys. And hearing you talk about the Edens and Superdog and everything. Oh my gosh, I miss Chicago so much now.
Oh, it's a sewer right now. Don't worry about it. Everything's closed. They didn't even open the beaches. They didn't even open the beaches all summer long.
There are some beaches though north where in the suburbs there's some beaches that are because you have to have permits and local tickets and stuff. So
any Silk Road lately? Silk Road Chinese food?
No, I have not had Silk Road in a long time.
Ooh, Spicy Chicken Tuesday.
Spicy Chicken Tuesday. That was a classic that Greg and I and a couple other folks used to go do all the time.
Ooh.
That was a good time.
That'll make you sweat. Tell you what.
Yeah, it was like General Tso's chicken times 10 on the heat index.
That's how you know it's working.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
Sure. Well, thanks for spending time with us, and
thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, definitely fun. You guys are great, and again, congrats on everything that you guys have built. All the best. Look forward to watching what you guys will be doing next. And again, just inspiring to see all that you guys have built. So enjoy your weekend. Thanks for taking the time to join us here on Wander to the Edge, where the audience gets to be a part of this kind of conversation every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. on the East Coast. And of course, over in London, that's 7 p.m. In Paris, that's 8 o'clock at night. And it's just great to have everybody join us. So looking forward to next week as well. Everybody take care, be safe. And again, Paul and Gigi, thanks for being our guests today.
And you have to subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter so that we can be as big as the empire that Paul and Gigi have built.
Consider it done. Consider it done, Zanne.
Yes. Everybody else to do the
same. All right, guys.
God bless you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again soon, and we'll see everybody else right here. Where is this again, Zanne? What's the name of this thing that we do here?
This thing is called Wander to the Edge.